Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to just apologize for being late. I had some load shedding issues that just ended up being a rocky start. But without wasting any time, I would just like to then continue and go ahead talking about connecting project teams. How can BIM improve interdisciplinary collaboration? So before we kick off, I would just like to give you guys an introduction of myself. I'm a BIM specialist here at Baker BIM in the AEC build environment. Let me just share my camera as well. And I am a structural engineer. I practiced as a consulting engineer for 4 years before joining Baker BIM in October last year. So I am feeling new and excited to talk to you guys today. I'll just run through the agenda. So I'll start off by talking about who is Baker BIM, and what do we do, and then I'll jump straight into the challenges in the AEC industry. I'll talk quickly about what is BIM and the objectives of BIM to address these challenges in the AEC industry. And then I will look at some practical solutions using the BIM Autodesk products. Two in particular, BIM 360 Docs as well as BIM 360 Build. And I'll just give an overview of BIM 360 Docs and then mention 3 different features, which is marking up drawings, creating issues, and creating reviews and approval processes in BIM 360 Docs. And the 3 features in BIM 360 Build I'll be touching on is the RFI management, meeting minutes, and checklists. And then I will lastly talk about the BIM Execution Plan, and that will bring us to the end of the presentation. So who is Baker BIM? Baker BIM has evolved over the past 5 years from being an Autodesk reseller to a consulting company that set out to solve our customer problems in the architecture, construction, and engineering space through digital transformation to help you design and make a better world. And in doing so, we offer various business process improvement consulting services, as well as survey and design hardware consulting, design software consulting, and round it off with providing our customers with a blended learning approach through a combination of one-on-one classroom training and access to our CAD learning portal, which is an online portal for the various Autodesk products that we sell. And these are the industries that we serve in, the build, civil, manufacturing, process plant, and in energy spheres. So now that you guys know a little bit about Baker BIM and myself, I would like to get to know the audience a bit, and I would like to ask 2 questions. The first one being, what do you consider to be the cause of inefficiencies in your industry from your personal experience? So question being, what have you experienced to be the biggest time or cost waster? With 4 options. Let me just launch this poll over here. Okay, the 4 options being tight deadlines, which lead to crisis management, uninformed design leading to rework, disputes during or after construction, or poor budgeting. And if you feel that there's any other things that might far outweigh the options that you see on the screen, you are welcome to mention it in the chat box. Okay, I'll give it a few more seconds. Okay. Okay, I'm going to close this one and move on to the next one. So 67% of you said that uninformed design leading to rework is one of the biggest causes of inefficiencies, 22% disputes after construction, and 11% tight deadlines. Okay, that's quite interesting. Then the next one, you should be seeing it on your screen now. What do you think will alleviate some of these inefficiencies? Innovation in construction, better early planning, transparency, better risk management. No one's going for innovation in construction. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, interesting. Another 2/3 is better early planning. And I think that also can help with making more informed decisions as the design process goes along. Okay. Thank you for that. Let me close this. Okay. So I initially had a longer list of causes for inefficiencies and solutions to these inefficiencies, but to narrow them, I had to narrow them down to 4. Other causes of time and cost wastage include things like unforeseen changes, misunderstanding of the client's expectation, and construction delays. And I'm sure we can have a 2-hour webinar talking about just the challenges that we face in the AEC industry, and then another 2 hours on the challenges in South Africa. But looking at the economic trends in construction, I think it's no secret that productivity in the construction industry lags way behind other industries like manufacturing or finance, who have really taken advantage of and grown with the technological advancements. The construction industry is known to be conservative, where the industry professionals tend to stick to the traditional ways of working, but yet there's increasing pressure on the architects, the engineers, and the contractors to increase profits, and more than that, to do it in half the time. And this type of thing is not only seen in South Africa. The productivity decline in construction is seen throughout the world, but in each region it is affected differently. According to a study done by McKinsey, the construction industry is the world's largest economic ecosystem, and it contributes to about 13% of the world's GDP. But even so, the productivity of the industry has only grown by 1% in the last 20 years. So this means that there was only a 1% increase in the value of the work that we do versus the time that we spend doing it. And ideally, you would expect your productivity to increase the longer you do something. Like manufacturing, for example, is one of the best examples of an industry that had a good productivity growth over a certain period of time. This graph that you see here is a study done by PwC on the revenue and the profit in the construction industry from 2007 to 2016. The bars that you see over there is the revenue, and the line graph is the profit. And from this graph, you can see that even though the revenue had increased during this time, the profit did not. And you can also see that there was a massive slump after 2009. And since 2016, there was a slow improvement in the industry, but there are still a lot of existing issues that hinder really good productivity growth. So there's a lot of loss in the industry due to rework time delays, budget constraints, miscommunication, and even things like corruption and procurement issues. And this is really not a straightforward challenge that we face in the industry. And of course, now with COVID, there's also been some other setbacks earlier this year. But what about the future going forward? Part of the study that was done by McKinsey showed that the digital transformation is largely the adoption of BIM practices in the AEC industry, and this can be done in various ways. And what they found from the study is that 80% of industry leaders anticipate that big changes in the industry, there'll be big changes in the industry in the next 15 to 20 years, and 60% of them expected to happen in the next 5 years. 2/3 believe that COVID will accelerate this transformation, and 50% have already invested in digital transformation journey. And this transformation is not only digital, but in terms of the way that we design, but also in the materials and the way that things are being built. And it's largely due to the adoption of the BIM practices, and like I said, it can be done to various degrees. But what is BIM actually? You might be joining this webinar because you want to know more about what it is, or you do already know what it is, but you're looking for practical ways to get your team on board. So some people might say that BIM is the new buzzword in the architectural, construction and engineering industry, but in fact it is not that new. It is also not the 3D version of AutoCAD or synonymous with Revit. I think that is a common misconception that people might have. BIM is in fact what I like to think of an agile project management style. And if you are familiar with this project management style, you'll know that it's based on seven different fundamental principles. And the one that I want to focus on today is that it focuses on processes over people. So having the right processes in place that help people to work more effectively. So BIM is really about the way that we work and the way that we use and share information in the building industry with our internal teams as well as the multidisciplinary teams. The agile project management style is mainly exercised in the digital, the software and the financial industries, the industries that really drive global trends. And like I mentioned before, the construction industry is notorious for lagging behind these industries because our processes and our management styles have not yet caught up with the other leading industries. And BIM, which is the acronym for Building Information Modeling, this is kind of like the revolution that challenges this, and it can be adopted by companies on various scales and at your own pace. But why would you want to do this as somebody in the building profession? So a lot of the time, our actual work is just making decisions. These decisions materialize in various ways, and depending on your role, it depends on your role, but they are decisions that ultimately dictate the outcome of a project. So designers, drafters, project planners, or project owners make thousands of decisions, which may be in the form of a calculation, a drawing, or a schedule, or a budget. And it's difficult to make good decisions without good data. And the key takeaway here is that good data is the foundation of making good decisions. When data is collated and compiled, we have information, and if this information is in the right format and it's accessible by the right people, then they have knowledge. And having this relevant knowledge is what then drives us to make good decisions. And not only good decisions, but informed decisions. And these decisions would ultimately lead to the success of a project. And where BIM fits into this is that BIM aims to drive the decision-making process, and it seeks to improve this decision-making process from conception all the way through construction, and even after in facility management during the operation of the building or the structure in question. And when BIM is implemented effectively in teams and in organizations, the teams can ensure that the correct action is taking place at the various stages of the project. And the cherry on top is that This process can be transparent, and you can maintain a record of design and constructability and the risks associated with those decisions. And that can then even go on to inform good decisions for future projects of a similar nature. Like, for example, if you are constantly being wrapped over the knuckles for quantities that exceed the budgeted estimate, perhaps it's worthwhile to ask the question, well, how informed are my estimates? Sure, it's an estimate, but estimates can be informed too. So if you were working on a multi-story building, for example, having the building modeled in Revit can help with quantity tracking as your project progresses. And when you land another multi-story building sometime after that, you can actually go back and you can compare the quantities with the estimates and see how close or how far from it you are. And that in turn can then help you for your estimates on your future projects of similar types. So what about collaboration? The nature of our work is that we have to rely on one another for the successful delivery of any kind of project in the AEC industry. The various roles are so specialized that you'll be hard-pressed to find an individual person or an individual organization who can fulfill these multiple roles. So we kind of have no choice but to rely on one another. And collaboration is also not something that is new. And without getting too deep, collaboration is actually part of the way that humans work and function in general. You know, we constantly collaborating and working together in everything that we do. But when we are intentional about the way that we collaborate and we think about why we collaborate, we tend to get a better result by improving our ability to problem solve, to learn from each other. We improve communication. Collaboration also boosts team morale, and it improves efficiency and drives innovation. With poor collaboration, you might think that you have a good solution to a problem, but that solution might be good in a local context only and not necessarily in a global context of the problem. And effective collaboration gives us the opportunity to explore our solution in the global context so that the design or the constructability solutions that we put forward is in fact beneficial for the entire project team. And that includes the client and the end user. So what are the objectives and how does BIM address some of the challenges in the AEC industry? So we want to have better interdisciplinary collaboration, and sort of hand in hand that goes with that is to break down the traditional information silos that really dictate the way that we work with each other. Perhaps the biggest downfall of information silos is that there's often a lot of miscommunication and omissions that ultimately result in rework. And when we have good, effective collaboration amongst teams, miscommunication and omissions and rework is often reduced. And the BIM tools that we're going to talk about today have been designed and created to directly alleviate some of these miscommunications by making the building information clear and accessible to the right people. RFIs and change orders are very often a pain point in the AEC industry, and practicing BIM from conception through construction with all the stakeholders has proven to reduce RFIs and change orders on a project. Sometimes rework is also not the only result of miscommunication, but sometimes it's also due to sincerely unforeseen events or client requirements. And BIM docs and BIM design that we're going to be talking about today has some features that particularly help to manage RFIs and change orders on a project. What's nice is that this information is clearly available to all responsible team members in one place and can be actively opened and closed so that the status of outstanding information is always known. And this helps us to solve problems and answer the questions faster. And when we have a look at how markups, issues, and RFIs are created on BIM docs and BIM design, you'll see how easy it is when all the information is right in front of you and you don't have to search and search in emails and archive drawings or documents to help you answer the queries that are directed at you. Another objective is to have better cost predictability. This can materialize in different ways, but in the case of making use of Revit to create a 3D model of your building, together with the data that informs the construction of these various elements, at the end of the project, you also have a record of what went into its design and construction in one place, and you are able to pull quantity and material schedules that can aid in cost prediction for your next project. Now let's look at some of the products that are available and some of its features that can address the previously mentioned challenges. This is a summary of Autodesk BIM 360 entitlements. BIM 360 Docs is the foundation it's the foundation and the starting point of all the work that's managed on BIM 360. It's the place to centralize, control, and give the correct access to project information for the relevant team members. And it serves as a common data environment for project teams. And it's really like the single source of truth for all the building information on the project. BIM 360 design terms is for Revit Cloud work sharing, which multidisciplinary design firms can use to collaborate and coordinate the deliverables. BIM 360 Coordinate allows teams to coordinate multidisciplinary models and automate tasks such as model aggregation or clash detection. And BIM 360 Build provides teams with the ability to manage meeting minutes, RFIs, submittals, as well as execute quality and safety management programs during construction. So that's BIM 360 Build. I should mention that at the end of this month, Autodesk will be announcing some improvements to the BIM 360 sphere. And if you are following Baker BIM, we will make that information available at the end of this month. So today we're going to be focusing on BIM 360 Docs and Build in this presentation. So I will just move on to an overview. This is a summary of the features of BIM 360 Docs. On this platform, starting from the top right corner, members of a project can publish their drawings to the rest of the project team who have access to the platform. And here they would be able to view or download the drawing and also make markups or create issues in the event of a clash or query. The owner of the drawing would then be notified and coordination can be initiated. Both 2D and 3D files can be uploaded and markups and issues can be made on either. And because of the embedded data functionality, you would be able to see a 3D model as well as its properties in Revit without having the actual Revit application on your device. And this is what makes it possible to view the models and other file types from mobile device as well that doesn't have Revit installed. Docs also allows for easy version control, and above all these features are available to facilitate effective document control, which ultimately will improve the quality of the work that you put forward and also the performance of your team. So how are documents actually viewed in BIM 360 Docs? So when you upload a model, this is a 3D Revit model, in the view panel it would look something like this, and here you can see it's quite similar to what it would look like in Revit. You have your view cube in the top right corner, and then you've got some functions at the bottom. Okay, is this thing clear? Okay, you can also see the name of the model in the top left corner together with the version. So this is revision, version 7 of this model. And besides the, you can also see 2D views, so those would be the 2D sheets that are issued for construction. So much the same like Revit, you can orbit, zoom in, and when you select on an element, the properties come up in a little property box. And if any manufacturer information is added, you can link in details. You can also do on-screen measurements. You can do sections as well. And it has these easy grips that you can use to view various parts of the building. You can also have a split view where you see a 2D drawing together with 3D view, so that helps you to give context, perhaps. You can also compare versions and see the history of all the versions, when they were uploaded and by who. And I think one of my favorite features is comparing the versions. So here you can select two versions, this being version 9 and version 7. And then you get a summary in a nice little color-coded dashboard that tells you between the two versions what has been added, what has been removed, and what has been modified. So between the two versions, those walls were added, these walls were modified. You can also see by whom. And you can do the same kind of comparison in a 2D version. So the red shows version 2 and the blue was version 1. And so that's some of the viewing features. Next, I will talk about the markups that you can do. So while viewing these drawings, you can also make markups on either the 2D or the 3D view, and then this can be shared with the owner of the drawing, and coordination and review can be initiated immediately. So let's say, for example, that at the time of ordering the doors, the contractor picks up that the opening size allowed for by the structural and the architectural drawings doesn't match the door on the schedule. So he can then highlight the specific instance in the model and then make a note and share it with either the structural or the architectural engineer, or whoever is responsible, and they would need to then provide clarity on how to proceed. So as you can see, the markup tools are easy to use with familiar drawing and text tools, and this feature can also be done on either desktop or a smartphone. That makes it quite nice for like in the field. If you don't have obviously a laptop with you, you can just as easily do it on your phone. So similar to markups, issues can also be created, logged and tracked and saved in one centralized location. So when questions or problems arise during design or constructability reviews, they need to be communicated, and this can be done via issues in the document management portal, and they can be particularly helpful for resolving issues that do not necessarily require a formal RFI. So as you can see here, this is a 2D drawing and you're reviewing someone else's 2D drawing and you recognize that there's an issue. You can just drop a pin to show the location of where the issue is, and then give it a name and assign it to the person and give a description or a comment. And then whoever this issue was assigned to would then get a notification that will lead them straight to this drawing, and they can see where the issue is. They can respond to the issue straight on the same portal, and the person who created the issue will then get a notification that it has been resolved. Okay. And this is quite nice because throughout the project, anybody can go and view sort of like a summary or a log of all the issues that has been created. And also there'll be an indication of which issues are closed and which are still open. So as the professional, you will be able to tend to those things on time and have very room to make excuses for not receiving any notifications. The review and approval workflows is also something that is quite useful in BIM 360, and it's something that would be typically set up by the BIM 360 project admin, and they would allow certain team members to be able to submit a document for review and the responsible team member to approve it. So, for example, a one-step approval workflow can be set up to allow, let's say, the contractor to submit concrete cube results to the structural engineer for approval. That's something that typically happens. And so at the start of the project, you know, this is something that would have to take place between the contractor and the structural engineer on a regular basis. So you can set it up, the admin would set it up, and it would look something like this. Where you can see who requested the review, in this case the contractor who's approving it, the structural engineer, and then you can also specify an amount of time for this approval to be submitted by, and then there are the various statuses: approved, rejected, or approved with comments. And then once the so this is now a log of the different sets of results that have been sent to the structural engineer for approval. The structural engineer can then start the review and indicate what the status is. In this case, they are all approved, and because now the structural engineer is happy, the approval can be submitted. And you can see now the status is that they are all approved and closed. You'll see the closed icon in the top left corner. So everybody on the team knows, okay, these results have been approved and the contractor can proceed. So the previous example was an example of a one-step approval process, but approval processes can be set up with up to 6 different steps, meaning that you can have 6 people approve a review. This is called a multi-step approval, and this is something that is typical for coordination. For example, if a contractor needs to make a few calls at various locations after the concrete has already been cast, you could mark out the core locations and then send it to the architect and the affected engineers for approval. And once all the consultants are happy, perhaps there are 3 or 4 different consultants and they've all approved it, then this review will be closed and the contractor knows that everyone is happy, and the contractor can then proceed with the coding. So those were the 3 features in BIM 360 Docs. Next, I'm going to be talking about BIM 360 Build, just giving a little bit of an overview. So BIM 360 Build, the module is aimed to assist with field management by facilitating issue management, creating checklists and daily reports for on-site execution and collaboration between the field and the office. It also assists with project management by allowing creation and assignment of the approval of the RFIs and submittals with a controlled workflow process across the teams. And then similar to Docs, it helps with document management by controlling the access to all the project documents, the plans and the models, and it also serves as a single data repository for this specific information. And with the BIM 360 Build package, teams are able to work easily and share project information, able to track all the RFIs and the submittals, manage any project issues, complete daily reporting, oversee job site safety, and create customized checklists. And these tools are integrated once again with the various other BIM 360 models. So this is just the summary of the various key workflows that take place leading up to and during construction execution process. And in this presentation, we will just touch on the RFI tracking, the meeting minutes, and the checklists. So starting with RFIs, within the BIM 360 Build project management module, there is an option for RFIs, and this is where you can create and also track the progress of the RFIs. And looking at the log, something like this, you can see things like the status of it, who it was assigned to, the due date of when the information has to actually be shared, and if there's any reference to a drawing or the location of where the information is required on the drawing, can also be included in the request. And there's also a filtering option to filter by statuses, so you can see very clearly at any stage of the project what RFIs and the number of RFIs that are open, which have already been addressed. And we all know, I think, that RFIs can be time consuming and sometimes a real pain. Sometimes you might have to do like a contractual check and balance between the contractor and the design team at the end. And each of these like communications through the RFI process sometimes need to follow a prescribed path for review and approval. And so this feature helps you to sort of to have a consistent approach to how to deal with that. And every contractor might have his own defined process. Often it's a set of software applications to manage these workflows. But now with this, you can streamline the communication between the teams and promote coordination and issue resolution whilst aligning with common contractual procedures. BIM 360 Build. So just to look at how to create it. Oops. Okay. So here you can see these, once again, a 2D drawing for reference, where you would indicate the location, give it a title. It's the location of the cable trays that are in question. You can see who it's assigned to, who might be a co-reviewer. You can indicate if there's a cost impact or a schedule impact, and choose who you want to send it to. And then when you go to the RFI page, you can see sort of like a summary of all of these, and you can review your actual RFI. Okay. So moving on to the meeting minutes. On the project management, there is also a meeting minutes tool set. So you don't have to go and hunt for lost meeting minutes. If you ever do go back and look at the meeting minutes, or question the accountability of certain team members, or run the risk of unanswerable claims. With this tool, the meeting management becomes a lot easier, and there's clear visibility into the commitments that were made at a particular point, and it provides a really nice organized history of all the meeting records. So it's not just in your email where you have to go and save the attachment, and when you forget to save the attachment, you don't have the record somewhere. So this, having the meeting minutes in your BIM 360 platform, allows it to be available to everyone all the time. You can also create agendas for upcoming meetings and add meeting invitees and attach documents, drawings, and models to the record items. Okay, and then the last feature we're going to talk about is the checklists. And when it comes to quality, having checklists and punch lists are really helpful. You might agree and use it, or agree but have not yet gotten around to using it. BIM 360 Build makes it is a feature that is available to be used. So here again, you can see a summary of the checklists on a particular project, and if there's any outstanding items, who it's assigned to. You can also import existing checklists, or you can create it from scratch. You can easily create quality, safety, commissioning, or punch list checklists. Use templates to build checklist from scratch. So if you typically use the same type of checklist on various projects, you can create a template for yourself and then use that every time. And there's a nice searching and sorting function to track the completion of these lists. Okay, so and once again, this is something that can be used on a mobile device as well. So if you were doing an inspection or doing a walkabout, you can then use this feature on a mobile device. Okay, so we've talked about the 3 features in BIM 360 Docs and BIM 360 Build that can help with the collaboration, but I'm sure that you can agree that it already addresses the bulk of decision-making processes that need to occur in a collaborative manner on most AEC projects. But how do we facilitate and implement the use of these tools, especially if it is the first time or the first few times that you are using it? And the BIM Execution Plan is a good place to start. So what is the BIM Execution Plan? Well, firstly, it is just that, it is a plan. And like the saying goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And by definition, a BIM Execution Plan is a comprehensive document that helps the project team identify and execute the role that BIM plays in the various phases of construction management. Without this document, it becomes challenging to ensure that team members are on the same page of the extent to which BIM will be implemented in a project. And this document is also used to communicate the deliverable expectations between the client and the consultants, and also between the consultants themselves. Some of the things that can be included in the BIM Execution Plan are the project goals or the BIM objectives. You know, what are we actually trying to achieve by making use of these new tools and the new management styles? You could also include project information, because BIM Execution Plan is unique to a particular project, and the nature of that project will a lot of times dictate the way that you implement these different tools and who are responsible for certain things. And that comes down to the key project contacts can be included, as well as the responsibility matrix and the use of a common data environment. So a particular common data environment can be stipulated, and you would need to mention it in your BIM Execution Plan to make sure that all the stakeholders are aware of this and making use of it and have the know-how of how to use BIM 360 Docs, for example, if it were to be chosen to be the common data environment. In your BIM Execution Plan, you will also include project deliverables, what the expectation is on when these deliverables will be delivered, as well as how, the format in which it would be. And following on from that, your level of development, which is particular to, for example, a Revit model. Doesn't have to be Revit in particular, but whatever drawing or authoring tool that you are using, it's very good practice to specify the level of detail and the level of information that you will include and that you will deliver to either the client or the consultant. You can also specify the approval processes that you will use. Sometimes some projects have very strict approval processes that have to go through multiple stages. So like we looked at the approval process in BIM Docs, if something like that were to be used, it would be described in the BIM Execution Plan, or if it were to be done in any other way, a good place to document it is the BIM Execution Plan, as well as the file naming convention. If the file naming convention used will be something that is standardized, or if everyone will use their own file naming convention. Also in the execution plan, you can document your collaboration procedures. How will clashes be dealt with? Will you be making use of things like Navisworks or BIM 360 design? And if not, how will they be dealt with? Also in the plan, it's good practice to mention the model quality control procedures, like things like health checks. How often are health checks done? who will do it. And this is something that's very often looked over, but it really is one of the things that helps to drive delivering good information to the next person so that they can use your information and make good decisions in their design process. Another thing that is commonly mentioned is the technology infrastructure need. Does everybody have the correct or suitable technology infrastructure to run these programs? Okay. So here at Baker BIM, we see a lot of value in the implementation of the BIM Execution Plan. And when we assist our customers with drafting this document, we sit with the customer and we think about questions like, what information do I need to make my job easier? That's a good question to ask yourself at the start of a project. And can I trust the data I receive and the data that I put forward to others? And then the follow-up question to that would be, okay, if not, or if I'm not sure if I can trust the data coming out of my Revit model, for example, what can I do, or what measures can I put in place to ensure that I can trust the data? So to get the answers that you want from these questions, like I said, a good place to start is to mandate it in the BIM Execution Plan, and also create a culture in your team and in your organization where these mandates are actually implemented. You know, a plan is no good if no one's really following it. But some of the benefits of drafting and implementing this BIM Execution Plan is that it helps to facilitate the collaboration. We're talking about collaboration today, and we're talking about how can BIM improve our collaboration. So I think we've mentioned a lot of things, but it's also important to sort of stop before the project and think about, you know, how to be intentional about facilitating collaboration. Also keep in mind that the BIM Execution Plan is unique to a project, so each project will have their own BIM Execution Plan, and this is also what helps you to be intentional about the way that you collaborate on your project and the tools that you choose to use right from the start of the project. So in closing, I would just like to mention that we know that the nature of the construction of any building or infrastructure requires dozens of handovers, even hundreds, depending on the complexity of the project, and these handovers are done between multiple stakeholders. And if anyone has participated in a relay race, you know that an entire training session can be dedicated to practice just that handing over of the baton between the athletes for optimum team performance. And by analogy, in our field, it's worthwhile for us to pay attention to the information that we are handing over at each stage of the project, and to ensure that information lost along the way doesn't culminate to time and budget losses right at the end of the project. And I think this image says a lot. You can have two world-class athletes like Felix and Gardner over here, but just that split second of slipping up during the handover can cost the success of the team. And being intentional about using BIM for collaboration in your teams can really help to reduce the risk of slip-ups between, you know, fully capable and skilled AEC professionals. So that's all the content from myself today, and I would like to open up to any questions that you guys might have, or comments. You can type them in the chat box. Okay, I see there's a question. Do you have any recommendations of how to convince clients and other consultants in implementing BIM? So I think that there might be sometimes some apprehension and slow adoption. But I think making the benefits of BIM clear is a good place to start. But sometimes, you know, clients and other consultants don't actually bite until they see their project in action, using Revit to its full extent, or using BIM 360 docs. So what I've seen, some consultants, even if they do not have necessarily a buy-in from the client, in terms where the client would mandate that BIM be used, but when the client starts to see the work that you put forward, the quality of the work that you put forward, and how efficient you can be using these tools, they start to buy in. And then maybe 1 or 2 projects down the line, they would be open to consider implementing it on the rest of the projects. Okay, any other questions? This is a nice one. Should all BIM execution plans be long? Long, complicated documents, or could you start with the basic one? Yes, of course, you can start with the basic one. So the BIM execution plan is something that you are in control of. So like I was saying, the questions that you ask yourself also, what is absolutely necessary? If you want to start off going slow, it's something that you can do at your own pace. So highlight maybe 2 or 3 things that is absolutely necessary, and more importantly, communicate that to your team. So the aim is not to have a overly intensive BIM execution plan, but that the information in there is actually useful and applicable to what you want to achieve. Next question, are there any examples of BIM execution plans available? Yes, there are. In fact, we putting together BIM execution plans is a service that we offer, and we do work with like a template or an example of some sort, but then we also sit with the client to sort of customize it to the needs of the project in question and the teams that are involved as well. Okay, so that's all the questions that I see. So with that, I would like to thank you for joining me, and I hope that this was beneficial and that you are able to implement some of the things you've learned today. And I would also like to invite you to connect with me. You will see on my screen my email address, or you can join me on LinkedIn as well, and also follow the Baker BIM's LinkedIn portal for more information and updates on BIM and how to implement it. So, hey, thanks to everyone, and have a good Friday and a good weekend.